immediately?
We've got to have a number, basically to say, okay, here's their portion, as far as their population or how much they run through. Here's Payson's and here's Elk Ridge and Woodland
Right.
Hills and Salem and everything else. So
But
we're gonna
what
have
happens
to,
if something happens in the future, like Spanish Fork adds in, but we've, in 5 years, we add and we do a more regional thing and we add these other cities into it, yet Elk Ridge
Oh.
and Payson cities, residents have paid most of it. What's gonna, how are we
well,
gonna
that's what we're
recoup some of
working
those
through right
costs?
now, is we're working with Spanish, we're working with Salem, we're working with Springville, we're working with all of them. And it's, you're either in or you're out right now. We've got a few options, a few ways that we're, a few things that we're gonna look at. Some of it we can't really get into tonight. And some of it just depends on, which way, how many cities are even gonna go in on this.
Right,
If you look at it economically, it's gonna be cheaper if we say, okay, Elk Ridge, 10% of that facility is yours. Now you have to pay 10% of maintenance, everything about it,
right.
okay? Salem, you might have 30%, 40%. Payson might have 50%. I don't know, depends on how much it goes and who's in it. So the numbers I think are gonna be, right now, it'd be too far to tell, but we are working very close with all the cities. The mayors have been meeting quite a bit, and we've been working with the engineering firms. My understanding is the state would really like a lot of regionalization. Is that?
I work in our funding program, and our board, especially when we fund projects, we encourage regionalization. The main reason is because you get a higher level of treatment for a lower cost. So the more people you can connect, the better treatment of the effluent you can get going out into the streams, and it costs the individual residents less money overall. So it's a good situation if you can regionalize.
And I know that we've met as much as, last week we met again. So we're meeting very regularly, one to two, at least once a week, if not every other week. And trying to get some numbers down, see where we need to put the plant if we regionalize it. I think we've got some sort of areas where we would have to just maybe do one pump. Wherever we put it, to regionalize it, we're gonna have to add at least 2 pump stations, 2 lift stations. So that's gonna be an issue. Curtis?
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple things, there is a few problems that we have with the sewer plant now that hasn't been addressed, and smell. And if we bring other communities in, I have a feeling that'll be worse. And so, we talked about clarifiers and putting covers over the clarifiers, a building or bubbles or whatever. And then also on the drying beds, putting the drying beds, instead of using those, run it through heat treatment and auger the sludge, so we can get it out of there faster, not leave it out there where it'll smell. The other is that while we're doing this, let's get the PI hooked up. I think the hookups are all there, we just need a pump. And let's start filing for we did have
I
the,
believe we've already got that.
So
We-
you have the
we did
water
have-
rights?
yeah,
we
The
did have
pump
water.
is in place and
So,
hooked up?
let's
So-
do it.
So there's probably the bigger issue with that is who will let the water go downstream and the property it goes through and them wanting the water. Because if you take all the water out in the summer when they want it, then maybe they won't, then we'll have to run a pipe to get the water to the creek.
hey,
in
that'd
the
take
winter,
care of the
so-
phosphates. I'll
Well,
put them on my lawn.
Sitting there
yeah.
working with all of this, there's a lot of different alleys I think we have to really look at. And the money end of it, as far as running pipe here or running pipe there and upgrading to certain standards or whatever, it's a fine line. Where do you put that, you know, and where do you want to run your pipe to, and then your pumping costs and everything else. So there's a lot to look at, and I think that's why we've been depending on we've got Forsman working on it, we've got these guys working on it, and so, I mean, we've got 2 or 3 engineering firms looking between the cities, so.
I believe it was in 2004, Aqua did a study on this and projected the life expectancy of the waste treatment plants all the way through the south end of the valley. And it's proved to be very, very accurate. I mean, we're showing that we're about 5 years out from needing to do something. What I'm saying is, 11 years ago, that study pointed very closely to the time scale that's put here. In that study, they showed, as it has proved true, that Salem is the first one to run into the critical situation. On that study of the communities in the south, Payson is second on that list. The point is, it doesn't matter how we go about making a decision of what's going to happen. It's going to happen. The time is coming that we're going to have to react to the condition of the plant, to the requirements of the state, and to our population growth. We're going to have to react to that. I'm trying not to.
Well, and I think one thing what has really happened is we have let a lot of things go to the wayside.
We have, but we're pretty close to the schedule, but.
Jeff stretched it pretty far.
Yeah, we're pretty close to the schedule that you figured, but the idea I'm trying to put over here, I don't even know what you call it, but the situation isn't a city-by-city situation. We're going to have to figure out, as Mr. Abbott pointed out when we first started out this meeting, this critical time is going to face every one of the cities down here in the south end of the valley. And it's going to be pretty quick. Some of us sooner for some cities than other. My belief is that we have got to look at this together, because somehow I have a feeling that to upgrade every plant in the south end of the valley compared to the cost
Oh, I think it's nuts, yeah.
of regionalizing, if we can think past our cities to the population of the south end of the valley, I think that
Well,
we've got to look at more than just fixing.
if we look at it, Sumwa has got property that we've already got for a regionalization
Right,
plan.
200 and, between 250 and
Yeah, I was
260
gonna say
acres.
250 acres, but we could even use that and sell it as wetlands mitigation property, which gives us quite a few million right there.
Absolutely.
And so we're really looking at some of these alleys of how we can get some money and not put so much on the backs of our citizens. So, like I say, a lot of this, we have been waiting for different studies to be done. I believe Forsman done a water flow, isn't that what they done, where all the water, or
Yeah,
where we
they
can
kind
go
of,
to, or?
they did a little memo looking at where we could get stuff and how we could
Yeah,
regionalize.
so,
And they put some preliminary costs, they assumed
Right.
like, okay, to upgrade this is there, but one thing that's important, which kind of goes to one of the questions here, is if you go to an existing facility and expand it, there's got to be some discussion on how those other people buy into that infrastructure, which they didn't really address in that. But that was one of the things I wanted to. Bruce
Well, and
I
that's
were
what we
gonna
need to
talk
do is
with.
make sure that we get everybody together now and
Yeah,
and
and I
say-
think,
we've got these studies done. Now let's take and put it together. Let's start getting down to some final numbers and then start analyzing it from there. Is it gonna be cheaper to go out and build a new plant?
well, and I think this
Or-
is interesting conceptually, because, I've been really involved in the SUWA studies for a long time, and it was interesting, because the first study on that came back and said the cheapest option is for everyone to continue to do their own thing. And the next study we did basically said everyone doing their own thing, but at the same time, that was just from a physical, okay, if you look at that map up there on the screen, look at how much of the infrastructure that we're reusing. If you go to a new site, all that stuff has to be rebuilt. So, but I think the mayor's group at that time, when they were doing the SUBA studies, was saying, well, I think we need to look at this harder, because there's a lot of intangible benefits that, from an engineering standpoint, how do I factor in how much is odor being gone? What's the value associated with that? How can we operate things better? Right now there's a whole bunch of plants you got. Jeff has a staff and they do everything. If you get into the bigger plants, they have mechanics that take care of maintenance, they have operations group, and so they end up running the plants more efficient. And those kind of things are really hard to assign prices to. So, I think all the studies that kind of come back and said to up and just move, it costs more money. But I think people have looked at it and said, wait a minute, even though it costs more money, we ought to explore this more. And that's what keeps happening on that. And we've hit this time right now with the phosphorus limits coming. We've always said, wait a minute, that's going to be a driver of where this looks. And so we're at the prime point in time, and that was what we always said in the SUWA studies too, is, okay, when these things line up, because the upgrades are always hard, because one facility, Springville's facility, with their upgrade, they got quite a bit more life in it. You guys are getting close to the end. Salem's in trouble. Spanish Fork's kind of in the middle on stuff. So there's always that point where all things line up with everybody, because people have investments that they've made and they're using, and it's hard to just release those. And now's the time to really look at that. Does it make sense? If Springville is completely out, then that site that Sumo's purchased doesn't make sense.
Right.
So could there be another site? Yeah. Does it
Well,
make
we
sense?
we still need to get with the state on what it's gonna take.
So-
Can we sell it? Can we still use it back into our, because we bought it, Sumo bought it, as Sumo is the city's, for sewer plant, and we got a good deal on it. So can we, by law, take that and use that property and still bring it over and
Yeah.
use
So
it for our own? And then what happens with Springville's share? So there's a lot of variables that we've really got to look at. This isn't gonna be an overnight deal. It's gonna be a long,
Well,
there's
and
gonna be a lot of hours put into this.
You just told us at least 3 things that weren't on that letter that we got, that we're having to meet.
I'm not sure the letter
Well, but-
myself,
but-
but
but I-
yeah.
yeah,
So
I
you probably
know,
got the
'cause I
letter
read-
on phosphorus, and I'm just saying, okay, that's here,
Yeah,
but
but-
we're at the plant we're planning,
saying-
and there's certainly
Exactly.
additional issues that are beyond. And that was what I wanted to present tonight, was that we're not doing this just because of the nutrient rule. We're doing it because of growth, we're doing it because of redundancy, we're doing it because of additional permit changes beyond just the nutrients. So, we're doing it because it was done 15 years ago and on a 20-year life. You guys have grown, you take in elk rich, additional flow, so all those things are, there's a lot more than just nutrients involved in this project.
Tim?
Well, just a quick thought, back to what Bertus was saying about the smell up there. I had always thought that, aside from the wetlands, that was a place that was open for development for Payson. To go to the north, and from what we've said here tonight, well, let's just say a big number. Let's not put something on it, let's say a big number. If we put a big number into refurbishing this plant. We have established this plant for the next 25 years in that spot where we might be developing.
Brad, how hard is it to, let's just play, let's say, if we said, we're gonna do a regional, well, I can't even say that,
Regionalization plan.
regionalization, thank you.
Yeah.
And we aren't gonna keep it there, you know, we're gonna do it someplace else. How hard is it to basically reclaim that property so that it's marketable? Yeah.
Just money.